Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I just want to tell you a little bit about my plan regarding our session today. Number one, I'd like to announce the lecture on Monday. I covered some basic idea about final project. I haven't released the written specification for the final project yet. But it has been announced that the project team will be 4 students ideally per team. So therefore, you should start to look for member that share the same interests. I gave a few directions, 4 different directions on Monday. After Monday, I forgot to upload the video. I realized that until today. So today, I finally released the Zoom recording on Monday. All right, that's the first thing. Take a look at that. I will start spending more time on the project. And the project is actually related to at least 1 or 2 of them related to homework assignment number 3. I will let you know. Okay, I got the email. Hold on. Okay, the second thing I would like to, this is like not an announcement. Well, it is an announcement. I just released homework assignment number 3. So today and Friday, I'm going to dedicate to homework assignment number 3. I do want to let you know that my homework is tightly coupled with the lecture and also the programming experience that you will have for ecs36b. It's my instructional philosophy that the only chance for you to really learn well about programming is for you to deal with a fairly complicated scope, not necessarily in terms of line of the code, but in terms of the concept and in the real world application. So you will see that the reason I put project together, they have all some real world impact potentially. Okay, so that's I think people can learn most from those kind of setting, and also the small group, like a 4 student, or some of the group will only have 3 students. It's a good size for us to be able to learn how to collaborate. Okay, so that's the 2 announcements I want to make. So right now I'm going to jump into the introduction for homework 3. So today I'm going to talk very high level, but I will start talking about JSON programming. And JSON programming has a reason. I will articulate why this is very important for you to learn about how to use C. By the way, there are 2 things. One is, what is JSON? And the second thing is that how to use C++ or maybe other object-oriented programming language. They're actually quite similar to actually handle the information that's presented in the JSON format. Okay. Okay, just very quickly, Kimberly, homework 2 part 1. It should be up right now. I apologize. It was down. I know, but I check. I should check more frequently. I actually had a program to check whether the server status, but I didn't run it against this quarter. I probably should start doing that. Okay, yes, Arthur, homework 1 is due midnight tomorrow. Sorry, Friday. Yeah, it's 11:59 on Friday. Okay. All right. Anybody have any question before I jump into our lecture today?
Yeah, Professor. So I checked the link on the document for homework 3, part 2, and it's not there, the tar file.
Okay, I will upload that over there.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you, Professor.
thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, any other question? Okay, I'm going to, or the other thing for homework assignment number 3, where Gian mentioned mentioned about the link. The last quarter, there was a part 1 of the homework assignment number 3 is identical to last year. And last year I recorded, I will repeat again in lecture as well as in office hour, but there are video, I went through step by step how to do that. So I will give you some links so you can actually see. The nice thing about what I learned last year is that the first time I assigned the homework, I mentioned to you that it was one of the most difficult one, I think, most challenging one because we're adding so many concepts. The nice thing about that experience is I know what's the frequently asked question. So I have already collected that. So I think I'm more optimistic that you guys will do well because we kind of know why people will stuck at a certain place, okay? So somebody asked a question, I think Frank asked a question regarding possible extension for homework 2. To say that, if you haven't seen it, the homework 3, I already have a conditional extension for homework 3. I think that is extra, but that's a conditional. You will see what's conditioned in the announcement on Canvas. For homework 2, I mean, in general, I will consider extension, especially under the pandemic situation, which students have a harder time to get help for a lot of us. I do consider that, but I also want to consider the fairness about for the whole class. So therefore, if you, I will extend the deadline for essentially 2 different situations. The number 1 situation, there are some difficulty that overall contribute to the development for the whole class. There is something, for example, CSIF has some problem, server has some problem. That's not your problem. So I will definitely do extension due to those reasons. That's actually because of the homework itself. And the other thing, if there is other reason which is more contributing to a individual student or a small group of students sharing the same situation, please let me know privately. I will consider extension. I try to be both transparent and also try to help you to finish. My job is make sure that you will learn. That's the most important instructional objectives to me. The only thing I want to avoid, I mean, don't ask for extension is like, I give you an example, like one day before that, you haven't actually even downloaded the tar file to start, and then you want extension, and that's not good with me, okay? So that's why the homework 3 extension is conditional. I'm actually count on you to already finish at least certain part of the homework, then I will give you 1 extra week. So I give you that extension in advance. You know it's coming. You know that you need to at least get certain thing done by that. Okay. All right. Is there any question about homework extension? I mean, you can ask me in public. I know this issue sometimes become very personal or even confidential. So I'd be happy to talk to you individually to handle those issues. Okay.
Professor, could you restart the server?
Which one?
Because the port is not open for homework 2.
Let me check. I'm actually just show in front of everybody what's happening here. Okay, where's the server? Let me see. I hope I'm not getting the wrong. Okay. Yeah, it's still connected to Cyrus. So which one? Is part 1 or part 2, homework 2?
2.
Part 2, okay. I have to switch over here. Let me do this.
It's port 95601. This is the port that is failing.
No, the server is running.
It is?
Part 2 is running, but let me tell you what the port number, okay? The port number may be wrong because I changed the port number and I forgot whether I update all the document. Whoever is doing part 2, I'm going to kill it and restart it, okay?
Okay, so could you please tell me what's the port number?
The port number is 95613.
613, okay, thank you.
Yeah, the port number is 613. Yeah, that's the issue, yeah. Okay.
Sorry. If it's not inconvenient, what would the port number be for homework number 2, part 1?
It's the same, I think.
No, it's not the same. It's the same. We'll be in trouble.
So homework 2, part 1. What's the port number? It's not 95603.
I think it's 95601.
I will, let me check. The best way for me to figure out is just look at exactly what I'm doing. Oh, it's down. 9561601. 95601.
No, but for me, oh wait. Okay.
Yeah, part 1 is 601. Part 2 is 603. And
but the problem is that 95601 is not working. It says connect failed. But when I tried 95603, it's working.
Okay. You know why? No, that's 603. That's homework part 2, right? It's not part 1.
I know. I'm using part 1.
Yeah. So that's why I need to fix my code in the following sense. You saw when I opened the window that the part 1 core dump, and it's the reason. It's not your fault. Okay. Again, it's the robustness of the code. Is because I'm not expecting to receive a request for part 2, and somehow it didn't handle correctly. It crashed. So I think that because you tried that port, it crashed. You sent to the wrong server, but I need to fix that. Yeah, in front of me is actually part 1 right now. So let me tell you what the port number 95600 is for homework 1. 95601 is for part 1. 95602 is for small program submission, and 95603 is for the homework assignment number 2, part 2. Oh, gosh, that's hard. I mean, I'm confusing myself. Okay, so that's just remember you.
Oh wait, 95601 is working now.
95601 is part 1.
Yeah, it's working now.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Hope you didn't crash.
Professor, I had a question on homework 2 part 2 as well, just a quick one.
Sure.
Is the hand-in command on the document wrong? Because it said the directory it wants us to hand it into is ecs36b fall 2020 homework 2. But when I try to type that command into CSIF, it says the directory doesn't exist.
Okay, I'll fix that. All right. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Abhay, thank you. All right, anybody? All right, so I'm going to talk about some of the conceptual thing. Okay, so right now, let me go to my video first. I want to just, this is homework 3 announcement. Is this the video? Okay, so this is the video that just let you, oh, sorry. So wait a minute. Why does it keep popping? I want this one. Okay, if you go to all the video, let me actually make this thing smaller. Right now, you should start watching lecture 5 and 6 and 7. Okay, lecture 5 and 6 and 7, let me actually roll down to tell you what they are. Lecture 5 is going to be inheritance, my first lecture about inheritance. And lecture 6 over here is talk about inheritance, but it actually applied the concept of inheritance to shadow object, which shadow object, in fact, is the key for homework assignment number 3. So start working on lecture 5, lecture 6, and lecture 7. Lecture 7 is also about inheritance, but the inheritance is talk about the virtual function perspective about inheritance. So talk about both virtual function and shadow, and all the example. I just like you to watch this 3 video because all the example are from homework assignment number 3. In fact, they are from homework assignment number 2 as well. You will see that homework assignment number 3 is a distributed version of homework assignment number 2, part 2. Okay, so please watch those videos. So I'm going to just go over some of the lecture I would like to talk about today. Oh, this is the JSON. I'm not going to talk about JSON first, but I'm going to talk about a little bit for the distributed object first, and then I will go to the JSON part. I'm going to use my slides. Where's my slide? Oh, here. I'm going to use 6, slide number 6. Okay, the thing is that there are 2 important concepts I would like to remind you that this is really behind both homework assignment number 3 and beyond. That number 1 is the application of what we call a shadow object. So, so far, up to this point, all your programming is essentially on a single host. I start to give you some feeling about using client-server programming using what we call socket. So socket, if you look into the code, is essentially using a library to allow 2 programs running on 2 different machines connected by internet, and how they will be able to establish a connection, and they will be able to send something through that channel. So for homework assignment number 3, we're actually extending that concept into something called remote procedure call. So remote procedure call, sorry, I have to come here. Remote procedure call works this way. Let me actually move this here so you can all see what's happening. So this is what we call remote procedure call. I actually covered this obviously in in lecture number 5, but I would just want to use one example here. So this is your traditional function call. So function call is a same program. You call a function foo, where the function foo will be called and be running and then give you the result you're expecting. I mean, for example, you want to get the distance. Remember, I talk about get distance. That is a function that's for your homework assignment 2, part 2 is calculating if you provide 2 coordinates using GPS location. It will calculate what is the result and get back to you. So you can think about that as just a regular function call. So the motivation, at least one of them, is this. Is what happened is I asked you to follow the link to go to that website to download that program, and then you integrate it into your part 2, and you recompile everything, and now you can execute that program. That's pretty much the top case we're talking about. But think about the company who actually provide that program. They have a problem with that because they're actually giving you the source code, or they are giving you the object code that you can redistribute to other people that just link to that. Then you basically, potentially you violate their intellectual property for developing that piece of software. So in some sense, centralized is not just limited your application, your application scenario, but also potentially there is a security issue, which is in terms of the protection of the software itself. So remote procedure call is essentially saying that, well, what happened if you never need to receive the function foo, either in source code or in the .o file, which is object code. So essentially, you don't have anything that locally, but you can still call it, just like the bottom picture, is that I'm actually going to call from one side And then the other side is really have the implementation. You can think about that. This is actually the server of the company who actually contribute to that code to calculate the GPS location. So you never need to obtain the source code or the library, and you can still call the function just like as if it is locally to you. So that is a very powerful concept that helps you to address two issues simultaneously. Number one issue is distributed. I can do distributed programming in this sense. And second thing is that I can actually separate the computation and possibly data to different places in the internet, and not everything has to be local, but you can do that. So that's the concept called GPS, it's called RPC, Remote Procedure Call. Your part one of your homework is essentially doing this. Let me actually show you this. Essentially using something called JSONRPC stub. That is actually taking something which is specified by JSON about how client server should be communicating. And then you're just using this program called JSONRPC stub. It will automatically generate C++ code for you to be linked to the client side and the server side. And then you can actually do this calling from the client and server. That's what the part one want you to do, to set up the implementation. And you should actually start to play around with that part one experience, okay? So that's the homework assignment number 3 to start with. And you can see that remote procedure call become one level up than using socket. Socket is just providing a channel for you to send and receive bytes. But here, that is actually one extra layer on top of socket that provide the semantic and type checking on a function that will be served and executed on the other side of the internet. And we actually apply that to a concept called shadow object, which I will explain I have explained actually in lecture number 5 or 6. But later when I do the demo on Friday. And by the way, I announced I'm going to do demo of homework 3 for the part 2 of homework 3 and on Friday, okay? All right, so one of the things you have been experiencing up to this point is JSON. JSON's everywhere, even RPC, I'm actually using JSON. This is the JSON, you can see it's called JSONRPC stub. It's for C++, but it's called JSONRPC stub because it's using JSON to specify the protocol that you need to implement on both sides, okay? All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about JSON processing. I think it's important for you to start learning, not just know what JSON is, but you will be able to write a program to handle JSON or to be able to convert a data structure into the JSON format. Okay, so I'm going to go to talk about the JSON stuff now. Any question at this moment before I move on to this part of my lecture?
Professor.
Yes, go ahead.
So would you mind to share us that slides that you are showing us right now?
Okay, yes, it is. All the slides are already online. Let me show you where it is, okay?
Yeah, okay, please.
So if you go to the this link, which is the fall 2020, I already moved everything over here. So you can see that this is the slide from lecture 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 16. And I will update more slides. By the way, sometime like yesterday when I interact with students, I answer questions, so I'm using my slide. So from time to time, I will refresh my slide. So those are the discussion part of the course. I actually add a couple slides to just illustrate some issue better I feel the second time I illustrate the same issue is actually much better than the first time. And I will update those slides as well. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, wait a minute, where's my slide? Okay, it's here. Let me get the things to the other side. Hold on. Okay, I will quickly to talk about, oh, I have to move this thing down. So what is a JSON? JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So it's a language independent representation of information. So essentially the whole computer science is dealing with information. And we have to process information in a way that's actually can solve real world problems. And traditionally, the data we're dealing with, especially we'll talk about big data, a large amount of data, is what we call relational database. It's a database is what we call sometimes called structured data, because it's a table of information which represent, for example, your birth record, represent your birthday, your weight, your name, your whatever, the doctor, and also other information. So you can see that there's a table of information in any government, in any hospital, in any financial institute. That's actually try to represent the information. They collect all the information, so their program is try to process this information. And we actually realized that is not going to be sufficient enough to handle the demand of 21st century. And we realized there was a lot of data which we don't know what's the format. We don't know how to describe a person. We know something, but maybe tomorrow for Felix Wu, I'm interested in the other perspective of him, and I want to actually change the table. So essentially what we're dealing with is called unstructured data. So unstructured data means that the data might not have exactly the same format or attribute across all the element, all the object. You can think about all the object in this. So compared to C++, here is a difference, the reason about why we need to learn JSON about object-oriented programming is that in C++, when we define a class, we actually provide a few attribute or member function. And the thing is that you have to define that and it's fixed. After you define that, it's fixed. Whether you have this attribute or whether you have this particular member, that's before you compile the program that need to be fixed. The only things that you can do a little bit more than the initial is using the method of inheritance or virtual function that allow you, a virtual member actually, that allow you to extend that representation a little bit more. And JSON was introduced to kind of fulfill this need to handle with what we call unstructured data. And it has this format called key value pair. So essentially a JSON object or JSON value is that you have this kind of key value pair and then connect multiple using the common together. Okay, so you can think about, I'm going to represent a person, say Felix Wu. The first one, the key one may be name, and the value will be Felix, for example. And key two may be position. You would say the teacher for ecs36b, and so on and so on. So you use this format to represent anything you want, okay? And the thing is that you also have the concept called array. An array looks like this, and you can actually put some of the key might have a multiple value. Okay, so just with key value pair and array, you can think about, you can represent almost all the information in the whole world the way you want, okay? So, okay, hold on 1 second. So this is for example, you can use JSON represent this, and you can use JSON to represent the information you can retrieve from service like Twitter or Facebook. I showed you last time is actually everything you obtain from all the major services is actually based on JSON format. In fact, I will claim JSON is so important. It's information everywhere. It's on the web, it's on the backend server, it's on your non-SQL database. Everything is represented in JSON, and therefore it's important for you to know what it is. And more important is that how do you actually be able to write a program to handle this data called JSON. Okay, in fact, it's not that hard I show you some example. Okay, I'm going to switch, and this is just an example for a person. You can see is a bunch of key value pair, and by the way, lecture number 10 actually talk about this as well. I'm going to skip this part to talk about how JSON is used. This part is how JSON is being used on the internet. So I'm going to tell you that this particular part, and this is a one JSON. When you look at this is in fact is from homework assignment number 6. Okay, so it's pretty ugly information that you have lots of, I mean, you probably don't try to read this in any detail, but this is essentially the information that's using JSON to represent a very complicated social interaction, okay? But I want to just tell you that if you go deep into this a little bit, you can see that I have some sort of structure. Oh, sorry. You have the first pair is the identity, and with some sort of identity, and has some avatar name, and which you are familiar with now after you complete homework assignment part 2, homework assignment 2 part 1, and you have your VSID, the virtual student ID, and then the message, and okay, this was a joke that the student who is because I gave a extension to Comcast student because Comcast actually had outbreak around early May this year. And I said, okay, because of that, people cannot turn in their homework, people cannot do any testing for 6 hours. So, okay, I said I give some extension, and the student sent to me saying that, wait a minute, I'm a AT&T customer, can I still get an extension? So we have that interesting, so we're not just building the system, we're actually using it to communicate ourselves. But here is being recorded, that is a JSON that's actually have that information, and you can see that people actually provide a reaction into that, okay? So this is the information we're going to handle. I'm going to help you to write a very simple program to actually how to deal with this type of information called JSON. Is essentially a key value pair. It looks like this. Go really quick. Okay, I'm going to start using this part. Okay, so the first level of information is that under JSON programming, we have two different forms that both are JSON. One is what we call a string representation of JSON. So the example I show you, that is a string representation of JSON. And when you submit homework assignment number 2, part 1, that was also a string representation of JSON. It's just a string. You can do bracket, you can do curly bracket, you can do double quote. You just make sure you're straight double quote, not the Microsoft Word version of double quote, okay? And the other representation is really an object-oriented representation of the JSON. So essentially, take that string into an array of information. It looks like it's an object. And that representation is called JSON value. So in the JSON programming, okay, by the way, you can see that I actually have the first line is JSON colon value. So JSON colon value, why is that? Is remember, that's the class definition. The the class is called JSON, and then there is under there is a value. So the whole thing, JSON column value, is a particular class that's defined for the object.
So wait, Professor,
representation of JSON.
is JSON a library, or is it a class that we have to make?
No, you don't have to make. It's already
library.
it's a library. It's a library.
And
It's
we should include it in our code, right?
yes, it's included in the homework 3.
I mean, is it included, or do I have to like install it in my
okay,
Windows?
so in homework assignment 3 part 1, you're going to install JSONRPC C++.
Okay, perfect.
But in the process, you will first install JSON C++. So there's a JSON C++, there's a JSONRPC C++. You will need to install that. For some of the system, JSON C++ is already installed. In fact, if you use CSIF, they already installed JSONRPC C++, which include JSON C++ for you. Okay, so there's one is.
But does JSON work for C?
That's a good question. I never tried that.
Actually?
My guess is that, okay, I take it back. JSON definitely work for C. The thing is that I'm going to link different library. So JSON C++ library is called JSONCPP library.
Okay.
Is specifically support for C++, which is really nice interface. But the C version, I have another library which I used like 6-7 years ago. It was usable, but it's not as friendly as the JSON CPP version. JSON CPP version is very mature, very nice. Okay, and also the way to use, if you learn how to use JSON CPP library, that's essentially the same way you will use JSON in other language as well. It's a similar semantic format you need to deal with. Okay. Any question? Okay, so you can see that I have, I actually declare this JSON value, my message. So this is just like I define an object. And this object is a JSON object called my vMessage in C++. So I should say it's a C++ object that's with a class, JSON column value. Okay, so that is my vMessage. And the thing is that I need to, remember I said there was a 2 representation. I have to include, to convert the string representation to the value, to the object representation. So this is important that using, oh, sorry, I have to go back here. You see that I actually using a library called builder.newCharacter. So this part of the code is pretty standard. So you first have a builder, and then you actually call the builder for a new character reader. You got a reader object. And then the reader is going to call a reader function called parse. So parse is essentially convert a string representation to the object representation. So, okay, here you can see that I'm actually taking a few parameters. The first parameter is essentially as a pointer to a buffer. It's a string, okay? It's a JF pointer. In fact, what I did is I pointing to a file, which is I call a file map IO, and I can directly use that. But you don't have to. You can just basically this is just a pointer to a string, and then this is the beginning, and this is the end of the string. So it means that JF pointer plus L size. You probably heard I use the same variable name L size to represent the number of characters, right, in a file, in a string. So in this particular piece of code, I'm actually reading a JSON string from a file. So therefore, I open the file, JF pointer is pointing to the beginning of the file, and JF PTR plus L size is pointing to the last byte of the file. And I convert this region of information into and this is called call by reference in C or C++. You see that I'm having a reference, my v underscore message. So whenever you see, just a refresh for some of you who are unfamiliar with this concept, anytime you call a function with ampersand, that means that ampersand is an address passed into the parse function and let the parse function to extract and put information into that location. Okay, so my message now, after you call my message, now the JSON is actually indeed has been converted to an object format. Of course, I mean, the return is a parsing successful. You see that if the parsing successful is it failed, that means this is not a JSON. I mean, sometimes people have a syntax error, and sometimes they use the wrong double quote, and that will actually trigger a incorrect parsing. Okay, so this is a parsing, and after you parsing, you can actually, the last line I highlighted here is actually, you can actually convert it back from the JSON object back to the string. It's actually very easy. You just say my v message dot to style string. Okay, my v message is the name I gave to that JSON object, and JSON object dot to style string. It will give you a nice C++ string, which is actually print out the JSON back. Okay, so this is the basic processing about how do you actually start to even processing the JSON. You must first convert the string representation of a JSON into an object representation of JSON. Okay, after you get this object representation, now let's see what we can do with it. Okay, any question at this moment? Okay, so now I'm going to move to the processing part.
Professor?
Yes.
Yeah, so one question. So my v message.
Yes.
That's exactly a JSON, right? It's not one of the key value pairs, but it's one JSON completely.
It is a one complete JSON, yes.
Okay.
It's
okay.
not just one pair, okay?
All right, okay,
All right.
Thank you.
So assuming our JSON looks like this, okay? This is a partially JSON. Can you see my screen? I'm going to just use one example. How do you actually handle this particular part? That I show you the example about Peter, maybe his reaction. He feels sad when I say, no, I'm not going to give you extension. Okay, so this is one of the students send out a sad reaction to what I said. So you can see that this is a part of the JSON. In fact, it's an array. Reactions is an array of, you can see that array with the data. Let me actually show you parse it a little bit better. So you can see that the outmost key is reaction. And then inside this reaction, you have this red bracket to put them together. And inside there is an array. This array, unfortunately, this might not be a terrible good example, has only one element of the array. That's why the count is equal to 1. And the array data, this is the data part of the array represented by the curly bracket. And inside this only element, you have 4 key value pair. The first one is avatar name as a key. The second key is a VSID. The third one is type, what type of reaction. The fourth one is created time. Okay, so you have a array, reaction is an array, and each array element has essentially 4 possible. By the way, the powerful thing about JSON is that you don't need to have all 4 of them. Some of the entry might not have a VSID, only have a name. And some of them doesn't have a type. Some of them might not have the created time. But that's all counted as your reaction, at least to provide partial information. Okay, so this is the data we're going to process. Now I'm going to show you how I can get to this. Okay, so the message, now I actually shortened it. It was my v message, right? So now I actually shortened it to be my v, okay, just to fit into the slide. So what I did here is that, well, how do I actually access to count minus 1. You see that I first use my v and use array. So typically in C, when you want to address an array, you will put like a 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So this is in C++, that this is perfectly doable with the JSON. You actually use a string as the index. So essentially when you say my v reaction, you actually already get the value part of the reaction. Assuming my v is pointing at this JSON we're talking about here, then my v reaction, you actually get to this part already. That's the first bracket index using reaction. But then I want to go deeper, so therefore I'm actually getting the second one, which is a count. If I put reaction and count, then I'm actually looking at this one. So you can see that by adding the string with the bracket with a sequence, you can actually go to anywhere you want. I mean, for example, I'm going to ask you to think about, if I want to get the VSID, how do I get there? How do I get to VSID in this case? Anybody want to give a guess? I mean,
so wouldn't it be reaction? I mean, might be reactions data VSID.
Almost right. My v reaction data 0, and then VSID, because this is
because it's an array, so data is an
array. That's the first element of
okay.
0. So that's why it's going to be my v reaction data 0, and then VSID. Then you can get to that string. Okay,
right.
So that's you can see that it's not that bad, right? It's an array, and when you write a program, you just imagine how you can go deep into this tree. Even though I show you the original information, it looks horrible.
Professor, this conditional statement, after that, you just like write some code and then you can get what the VSID is. This is what
in fact, you can directly get what VSID is. Okay, now I'm actually going to tell you something different. You see that in this example, I said as int, right?
Yeah, greater than 0, meaning that you don't want the first part. You don't want the avatar name, right?
No, this part is basically say, yes, if it's a 0, then there is a nothing in this loop, right?
Exactly, because you don't want the first element of the JSON
array. No, I want the first element. The example of this code is make sure that this array is not empty.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? It's one element means that it has one element. This piece of code is make sure you have at least one element. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's important. JSON, you see that I said as int, right? But you can also check if this is an integer or not, because somebody could send you a JSON, but they didn't put the number. They put a string, or it's supposed to be a string. They put something else because there is basic type, right? Sometimes it's double, sometimes it's string, sometimes it's an array. So
you use isn't.
Right. So you can actually use is int, is array, and those function to allow you to actually check. Let me actually show you a piece of code which I did. Let me tell you that potentially how complicated that is. All right. Okay, this will be the last thing, and then I need to switch to my small office hour. Just want to show you one thing which I did. This is the code that's still running. Yeah, I'm processing some very exciting information this day. Let me just go over here and show you a small piece of code. I mean, JSON is not, it's very useful, not hard, but it's tedious. Let me show you why I said that. I think I do it in ecs36b over 9. Okay, so let me actually show you a piece of real code. Okay, so this is piece of code. You can see what I did. I try to check the ID. You see that how many things I did? I check whether the first thing I check
If it's an array.
if it's an array, exactly. You see that? I check whether it's an array. And number one, I check whether this ID field is null or not. Because I said in JSON, you have to remember not all the JSON have all the attributes. It's a flexible, is unstructured. So I will check whether it's actually null or not. And then the next thing I check whether it's a string. So only after this three check, then I actually check whether this as a string, whether the size is actually smaller than 3, because I actually expect the ID has to be greater than 3 characters. Okay, so you can see that I actually check.
This is from the server side.
I mean, client side, you can do the same thing as well. Because the client side, if you want to produce the JSON, you want to.
But on the client side, you specified the arguments that you're
Well,
going to run.
In the client side, sometime for the programming, you don't enter the JSON from the argument. You actually read in the JSON from a file. Usually, you read something from the file. So that's why you can see my code is always handling the file, because a file contains a complete JSON in one file, one single file. Typically, that's industry standard. You have one big JSON.
This is encapsulation. This is what you were talking about, encapsulation.
Okay, maybe that's encapsulation. Yeah, but I just want to illustrate.
You're saying that I can't access it because it's only accessible by through you as the server, the JSON file.
Oh, I see. No, but what happens if you submit the JSON? You want to you download a JSON file, you make some changes, you want to submit the JSON. I mean, I talk about encapsulation. I'm more talk about the code, and maybe I talk about information. I mean, you're right. I mean, by the way, Saif, I think you're right, because JSON, if I can access JSON, there is no encapsulation, right? I can see everything. I can see all the information. That is a good point. Unfortunately, in that case, in industry, they have to design the API such that the information they don't want you to see will be stripped out from the JSON before you even get it. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry, I'm running out of time.
No problem. I will talk in the office hour.
Okay, sure. So this gives you some idea. I just want to give you some impression about how for JSON programming, you really just need two things. Number one, how do you actually convert the string format to the object format? Once you have the object format, you're essentially just doing in front of you this few lines of code for you to check and to access to a particular string or some. If they have it, they have it. If they don't have it, they don't have it. So this is, you can see that this is totally not compiler time. So you have to do everything in runtime. That's, I guess, is a power and the curse about doing both C++ and JSON, because C++ is everything is compiler time. And so that's a class. But when you deal with real information, you have to do a lot of dynamic checking, like what I did. I mean, to convert to the JSON object is not hard, but you have to make sure your code is robust. You check for everything, and otherwise the logic will not be correct. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and then I will be joining the group 2 after I quit here. Okay, is there any last minute question, or you can ask me tomorrow?
Yeah, just two questions, Professor.
Sure. Arthur, go ahead.
The first one is my bad. The homework 2 is due on the 20th, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then, thank you. And the last one is for homework 1, part 2. Do you have like the like what numbers the lectures are for me to watch, or like for that covered homework 1, part 2?
It will be a Zoom lecture. I will dig it out and send to everybody. If I forgot to do that, Arthur, which is typical, find a way to remind me. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Professor, when you replied to my email saying that we can chat in the afternoon, what time did you mean?
We can probably do it after my office hour. Would that be okay?
Okay. Can I open after that? I should open. Okay.
Yeah. and we will send email. I will send you a link to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
Professor,
All right.
Small question. For homework 3, you said we should watch lecture 5, 6, and 7. Is that what you said?
Homework 3.
Yeah, for 5, 6, and 7, right?
Yes, that's right. And also a bunch of Zoom video, which I will share with you. But I will essentially 5, 6, 7 provide the concepts. But sometimes I use Zoom, either the past Zoom or the Zoom I'm going to produce, which I will go into. It's more reactive to your progress.
Okay.
We can do that as well.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Thank you very
Professor?
much. Yes.
One last question. How many files do we submit for homework 1? Do we include the my.break.c or just like my hill, .c, make file, and readme?
No, you need to provide my.break.c. You need to provide my.break.c. The reason is that your my.break.c might not be the same as my.break.c.
So what if I didn't change your my.break.c?
It might be better for you to still include that, include the make file, because it will be easier for TA to grade your homework.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, so thank you very much, and I will see you on Friday or tomorrow, office hour. Okay, for those of you small group, I'm going to the room right now. Okay, thank you.
How do we, excuse me, Professor, how do we get to the small group room?
Did you receive an email?
I did receive an email. Was there a link in that email? I don't remember.
Yes, there is a Zoom link there.
Oh, okay, sure, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Professor, so are you starting with group 1?
2.
Or
today is 2. Today is group 2.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.